We'd like to call the meeting to order. Those who are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Prayer. You'll remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. The first item on our agenda, Chief from the Fire Department would like to present our deputies with some honors.
Good evening, everyone. There's a special occasion here this evening with us. Members of the Fire Department, members of the Sheriff's Department here as well with us in support. On April 14th, approximately 1:30 in the afternoon, the Ypsilanti Township Fire Department was dispatched to a residential fire. Our stations were out on some other calls, but we all responded with the Sheriff's Department as well on hand. Our first engine got there, noticed a considerable amount of smoke and fire coming from the residents, and there was two Sheriff's deputies on the scene trying to effect a rescue for us before we got there. It was noted by the on-duty crew when they showed up that the two Sheriff's deputies were in the doorway. One was holding the other one's belt while the other one was reaching in trying to find the person, because we were told that there were several individuals that possibly still could be in the structure itself. Fortunately for us, there was only one victim, and that victim was brought out with the help of the deputies. And then when the first engine got there, along with HVA, we started immediate life efforts to save this lady and bring him back. So with the extraordinary risk that was done that evening, or I should say that afternoon, with the deputies, Deputy Phillips and Deputy Lyons of the Washington County Sheriff's Department, I'd like to recognize them with a certificate of life-saving. The lady, the female resident, is still with us today. She's in a rehab center, and she is improving every day. So we're thankful for that. So I'd like to recognize those two deputies at this time in front of you folks for their life-saving efforts. Deputy Phillips, Deputy Lyons. And also Deputy Phillips does the same. Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And the members of the fire department, come down, please. Captain Regland, Lieutenant Rowland. If you're both here, I'd like to see you. So along with the deputies, once the life-saving experts were being taken care of, the fire was still going on. Captain Regland decided to stretch out her resources a little bit and get the fire going along with our mutual aid companies that were coming in. She took over patient care of the female that we had there, sole handling until HVA got there. And she made a world of difference in her actions with the individual obviously surviving the incident. So I'd like to present her with the same. Again. Again, Lieutenant Rowland was there, was the captain's partner that evening, or that afternoon, I should say. While the situation was going on, we were told still as we were responding there that there might be some more individuals there inside. Lieutenant Rowland took the charge hose line and went in and tried to look for other victims until mutual aid companies got there to back them up and also put out the fire. Fortunately, was nobody else in the building, and we were able to put the fire out along with our neighboring communities. So again, life-saving award presented to him as well. And we certainly cannot, in the fire service, we have different shifts or different units that come across. So I'd also like to recognize her shift. She's in charge of shift 2. for those individuals that had came and responded from the other two stations to support the activities that were going on. So this is basically a unit citation that will be hung up in charge of the captain.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we proceed to the agenda, can we add under other business, which is request authorization to approve change order number 2 for the Ford Lake Park shelter improvement as part of the ARPA funds? Are there any objections? That'll be under other business. We have the consent agenda of May 21st, 2024, regular meeting and closed session, statements and checks, and the treasurer's report.
So moved. Support Peterson.
Questions or comments? On the minutes, I just had one. It had me calling the meeting to order, and it was actually you that did that. I arrived late. Any other questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Attorney's report. Is there any general legal update, Mr. Winters?
Madam Chair, as the board is aware, there continue to be a number of very important infrastructure projects that have been authorized by the Township Board. Director Hines continues to work with a multiplicity of engineers, be it OHM, be it Stantec, be it Spicer Group, as well as trying to also attend to other duties that he has. But at the same time, this has been a very challenging summer of trying to get the projects lined up, and I think we're making some progress in some of those projects, and others are still in different stages of formation and being negotiated. One of those projects that's not necessarily on the list that the board has authorized, although the board did authorize the retention of OHM, has to do with the carport. All of you have seen probably way too many letters regarding the carport that was destroyed by what they call a high wind event back in March of 2023. The MML LPP initially remitted a check for $73,000 for damages to that replacement. That was clear was not going to be adequate to replace the carport. OHM was actually retained from those initial proceeds to prepare specifications to replace the carport. Their specifications were for a larger carport than what was there. Also has some other improvements that were not accepted by the insurer. In that situation, in the bids that went out, the low bidder was Phoenix Construction for somewhere in the neighborhood of $414,000. Back in this past May, since February until May, kept trying to get the MML and their engineers to take a more deeper dive into what actually needed to be done vis-a-vis that carport. They came out in May 16th or so, myself, Director Hines, Dave Bellers, and the insurance people were there. Maybe I'm missing somebody. But anyways, as a result of the Matt Parks from OHM, so after that initial meeting, that follow-up meeting in May, they did notify the township last week that they were going to increase their offer or their settlement offer from the $73,000 to $217,000. Of course, they have to back out from the $217,000. That's $73,000. So I think the net check was somewhere around $143,000, somewhere in the neighborhood. So that money has been received. I know it's been deposited by the township treasurer. And so while the total amount of $217,000 is what they feel is their limits, we did find out during those discussions that the carport was insured for $175,000. And there was an additional $100,000 available if you could show why the increase or the cost increase was warranted by ordinances and by engineering standards, which we felt we did. And so anyways, while it was increased to 217, minus what has already been received, minus what's already been paid to OHM, the question has come up as, okay, what, if anything, does the Township Board do at this point? Because the amount received is obviously nowhere near what the amount of the low bid was from Phoenix. It's not for you to make a decision. I'm not asking if the board should do anything this evening. I'm simply making the board aware that while we have received the total settlement of the 217, minus what we already received, that it's still going to require the board to do some deeper discussions or plans as to how they're going to use those funds and what size carport, if any, is going to be designed for the parking lot. Again, there's an awful lot going on with infrastructure projects that are very, very pressing, and I think Director Hines has some of those on the board agenda this evening that he and I have continued to work a lot on Tuesdays and Thursdays, spending a lot of our time trying to get our arms around this issue. I also know that talking with Attorney Dennis McLean that there have been a number of public nuisance lawsuits that have been filed as authorized by the Township Board, including the one property on Jerome and North River. There's another property that's been filed, or going to be filed, that was approved administratively by the Township officials that will come to the board once that lawsuit has actually been filed. There's also ongoing meetings with the attorneys who represent the property owners at 2402 and 2416 East Michigan Avenue. That was the property that was the so-called coal pile. And we have had the benefit of several experts through Evan Pratt's office that has attended those discussions, and also with the attorney representing the property owners and their experts. And at least according to Denny, there's been some significant agreements on what needs to be done in order for that property to be deemed to be, I guess, environmentally safe for future use, future redevelopment. Right now, I've talked with Karen Wallen quite a bit. It's hard to believe that we just concluded our negotiations with the firefighters, and sometime probably here in the next month or two, we'll be starting negotiations with the TPOM. That's for the township employees. They used to be AFSCME. They changed to TPOM for the last contract. And then also before the end of this year, the 14B court employees that are part of AFSCME still will also have their contract expire in December 31st. So there's a lot of moving pieces in regards to whether it's infrastructure projects, whether it's capital improvements, whether it's public nuisances, as well as labor negotiations. And again, the staff is doing a tremendous job. The building department is doing a great job as well. The ordinance and everybody, I think, is rowing in the same direction. So that's my brief update for tonight. But it's been a month or so since we met, so there's been a lot of things moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from Attorney Winter? Hearing none, we will move on to the new business. The first item is Resolution 2024-08, which is regarding the temporary road closure of Mary Catherine Street for the West Willow Farmers Market Block Party. Clerk Rowe.
I have Resolution 2024-08, a resolution authorizing the temporary road closure of Mary Catherine Street between Laurie Street and DeSoto Ave and Jeff Street, and between Jeff Ave and DeSoto Ave and Jeff Street, and State Street for the West Willow Farmers Market Block Party on July 20th, 2024, from 4:45 to 8 p.m. Whereas the Charter Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees has approved the temporary road closure of Ypsilanti Township roads as indicated above, and whereas the Driveways, Banners, and Parades Act 200 of 1969 requires the township to authorize an official designated by resolution to make such a request from the Road Commission. Now therefore it be resolved that the Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees designates and agrees that Joshua McAllister, event planner, be authorized the official designee in this instance when the application is made to the Washtenaw County Road Commission for this temporary road closure. I would so move the resolution.
Support.
Motion Rose, support Eldridge. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could Josh step forward? Just want to get some information. Or no?
Sure, of course. Is a petitioner present?
Yeah.
Hello, Board. I'm here to answer any questions you have for the block party.
Yeah, Josh, so is this open to, I know it's open to West Willow, but is it open to the community also?
It's open
Or
to
not?
everyone that wants to come, ma'am.
Okay. Are you going to be, is it actually a block party? Or are you going to be selling vegetables too? Or are you going to have booth? Are you going to have vendors?
We will
Anything
have-
like that?
We'll have every, the normal vendors that are at the farmer's market will be there. Everything that happens at the farmer's market will be there. The community wants to bring that. The extra portion of this is the safety for speed humps that we're trying to get on Jeff and Mary Catherine.
Okay. That's what I thought it would be, the same as your event you have in the parking lot at West Willow.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And is State Street going to be closed as well? Or no? Is
No.
State Street, okay, the map just shows highlighted green. I didn't know. I just wanted to make sure.
Just the end of Jeff and DeSoto where they meet, and then DeSoto and Mary Catherine,
Right.
and then from
But
Lori.
not State, right?
Not State,
I didn't
ma'am.
think-
Wide open.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, if I could, Josh, on the map, just like that, it's, I don't know how well you can see it, that like lower red circle kind of goes over State Street, so that's why we included it in the resolution, but I can remove that if you don't need that intersection.
We do not.
Okay, so.
It has to be, it
Like,
should
it will be
like-
okay if cars
yeah.
drive up and down State Street. We can change the resolution to reflect that if that's a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And just as a reminder to the board, we have two of these on tonight, but these come before us, and then they're sent to the Washington County Road Commission, and then they actually authorize. But in order for them to petition the Road Commission, it comes to us, and we send over the resolution giving permission.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2 is a resolution 2024-09 regarding the temporary road closure of Packard Road for the Peace Neck, Ypsilanti Charter Township. Madam,
I have Resolution 2029-09, a resolution regarding a temporary road closure, authorizing the temporary road closure of Packard between Rosedale and Kewanee for Peacenik, Ypsilanti Charter Township on Saturday, August 10, 2024, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., where the Charter Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees has approved the temporary road closure of Ypsilanti Township roads as indicated above, and whereas the Driveways, Banners, and Parades Act 200 of 1969 requires the township to authorize an official designated by resolution to make such a request to the Road Commission, now therefore it be resolved that the Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees designates and agrees that Reverend Joseph O. Jackson be authorized official designee for this instance when the application is made to the Washington County Road Commission for this temporary road closure. I would so move the resolution.
Support Peterson.
sorry. Motion Rose, support Peterson. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I will just share with the board that we haven't done one that's a county primary road on Packard, and I did clarify before putting this on that that is the same process that the Road Commission wants to see, where we still go through this resolution portion, and then they will, carry on the work from that point. I did know that Reverend Jackson, I think, was planning to come tonight, and I just sent another email, but we'd been in a lot of communication about his event, so. Same process, this will go then to the Road Commission for their approval.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is a request to sell a Brenda Lee Mountain Fire Apparatus.
So moved.
Motion Will.
Support.
Support Eldridge. Chief?
As we know, we took delivery of 2 fire engines here back in February, brand new ones, and thank you for that. I have two fire engine and a ladder truck that are well over 25 years old, and their useful life on the fire service, anything after 20, they kind of question, and at 25, it should be replaced. And we have done that. What I need to know today is I put together a little stuff that was in your packet. There's a company called Brindley Mountain who specializes in selling used fire apparatus. I've had conversations with both the supervisor, our accounting director, in the process of possibly using this company to receive some more benefits or more cash flow to the township by selling them, or by having these company advertise for us throughout the country. They do a trade magazine, they do online, they pretty much market the truck for everything, totally free of charge. The only thing that they request at the very end of selling the individual truck is a slight commission of either 1% to 10%, depending on the age and what the policy and procedure and the monies that they get. Any correspondence that I would get as far as a contract or anything, I certainly run through our corporation counsel here for any positive feedback or not. I've had some past experience with this company in my previous employer, and that's how we had sold the fire engines before and received quite a bit above what an average citizen might buy a fire engine for on the general market. I know we use a company called BidNet here that's been successful, but in my dealings, I think we'd be better off going with a company who specializes in selling fire apparatus. There's a few things wrong with them, so we won't get top money for them. Because of their age, there was no sense of us being the township to put that money in those fire engines when we were getting two new ones back in February. So I'm before you tonight asking permission to use Brindley Mountain and sidestep the BidNet process in order for us to gain some more funds from those trucks. The unique thing about them is they're American LaFrance's. American LaFrance went out of business probably 20 years ago. And there's still departments out there that use these trucks as their frontline fire engine, but they can't get any parts for them. So if they break down, they don't have anywhere to go. Sometimes they find a manufacturer who could actually manufacture maybe another wheel bearing for them or another axle of some sort. I've known departments that have sold these before through Brindley that, say, a township like us would just buy it and keep it in spare parts. So they could just go out because they can't afford to buy a new fire engine at the time. So I have a thicker brochure that I couldn't quite get through the copier for you without getting it jammed, but on the other side of the ones that are there, answer some of the questions as far as like selling and the finder and then buying and stuff. Once they would reach out to us, I would deal with the individual, perhaps the fire chief or their purchasing person. Maybe they want to come tour it. The last one we had came when I was on the former Dearborn Fire Department. They came from New York to buy a ladder truck, so it was a little time for them to come. They stayed with us for a day or so looking at the truck, and then they ended up eventually buying it the next day. So if I can answer any further questions, I know that was kind of a lot in just a short period of time regarding these two fire engines.
Questions or comments? Trustee Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm wondering, so are they acting as like, if there's a problem with the sale, are they taking the responsibility, like Brindley takes responsibility? Because we're selling it as is.
That's correct.
So the sale is between Brindley and the other purchaser, or is the sale between the township and the new purchaser?
So that it can go both ways. So if we were to sell it directly to another city, it would be, the township would be with that city or that township. If Brindley Mountain saw those and saw a market for them, because a lot of times they know that there's companies that want those parts that I had mentioned, they might just write a check to the township and say, we take them.
Okay.
So at any point in time, there's something that the closure come back, and I would certainly get with our corporation counsel here to justify and make sure everything's good.
Because that would be my concern. We're not in the business of selling used vehicles.
This is correct, yes.
So we want to make sure that whatever paperwork's done when that sale's made.
Yes, ma'am.
That it's going to be appropriate paperwork, because that's not something that we do on a regular basis, I guess is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So I hear you saying that it could be Brindley decides that they want to purchase it, and then the deal's just with us and Brindley.
That's correct.
Or they could negotiate finding a municipality that wants to purchase it from us, and then that municipality will purchase it from us, and then always it goes through our attorney to make sure, however, that sale's going to happen.
That's correct.
Happens correctly. Is that
And they have,
accurate?
yes, ma'am. And they have like, I don't want to say generic, but contracts that have already been built up, that if you don't have anybody to assist you, you know, you can put in your name, that type of stuff. But again, I'm sure we could come up with a nice contract form with, you know, disclosure. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? So, Brindley,
Yes.
if they actually purchase it, we're not going to pay them 10%?
No, it would just be
Because that's not in the memo, so I didn't know.
yeah, it would just be the flat, if they hypothetically, if they offer this $30,000 for both of the vehicles, that would just be $30,000. That's what they would purchase for.
Because it says that they'll do a fair market value research.
Right. So if they look to see what they want to offer us, and we just say, no, we think we can get some more for it, or if they back up and say they're happy with that, you know, it's a fair, it's kind of like a used car where you kind of barter with them a little bit to figure out where that's at. But they would not take a commission because they know that there's other departments or other cities that want that part or put that truck back on the road.
And how did we sell them previously?
I believe through BidNet before I was here, and then also, I was told also there was like a smaller auction that would take place with some equipment and some general public people could come and obviously buy it. And this is not excluding them at all. They can get on Brindley Mountain's website, and if they're a fire type buff and they want, you know, American LaFrance, 1990 American LaFrance, then they want to put some work on it, they certainly can buy it from them too.
And it would just be a signing it like a used car. When you sell your car, you sign the title.
Yeah, we would sign everything over, and of course, I'd work with Doug is hand in hand with that as well, and the county, all the key players.
Who had the question? If you could go to the microphone, please, and give your name. I'm sorry.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Sharon Lee. I live in the township. Have you did a research on how much they're valued at, the apparatus?
So much like we had spoke before, I don't know that much about used fire apparatus, so I wouldn't know exactly how much to ask for versus somebody who's willing to pay for that. So this company here strictly deals with used fire apparatus throughout the country. So they're kind of in the market and they know quite a bit more than I myself would know to purchase that, whether I was getting a good deal or a bad deal. So I wouldn't really even know where to start as far as getting a used price. I would reach out to those folks to say, hey, what could I get for this type of a vehicle? It's got this many miles and this many pumping hours on it.
Okay, so you're hired that company to work for you to sell these apparatus, right?
In a way, I want to be cautious not to say hiring. We would just be utilizing them for their expertise and what they do and how they get to that fair market value, and then give us a good price to attract people to purchase it. It's kind of like a broker type deal. And then if you're looking for a used car, you know, there's all sorts of places you can go. A clearinghouse that, you know, if you're looking for a particular car, they just utilize fire apparatus as part of what they do.
Okay, but I wasn't clear on what Supervisor Stumble asked about them getting a price?
10%.
10%, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
That was a question I asked, because in the memo, it talked about they will get 10% of the sale, but if they buy it, we're not going to pay them 10%.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
The key is to get the Blue Book value or fair
There you go.
market value.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And it could be less if it's not, let's just say there's not a whole lot of market because, you know, there's a lot of rust on one particular to the other. They only want to give so much. It wouldn't be 10%. They might drop it down to say 3% because it's an older truck. It's got a lot of rust on it. People just are not going to have it served. So,
And you utilize this process in Dearborn?
yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct? Yeah.
And also the former Melvindale as well.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I've got
I
about-
know that BidNet is not the best place to sell things on. Right. It's just very limited.
Sure. And at any given time, I had back over the past, if anything was to go wrong or anything, we would stop the process, and move, if something was to happen or something, we would just,
Sometimes they go to
cancel.
auction. I mean, there's
Right.
different ways they've sold them in the past, but this is another new way of doing it. And I like the idea of getting a fair market value for it, because that is something you can't, with a car, you can look at a blue book and
Right.
it'll tell you, but these are fire apparatus. I have no
Yeah.
idea, yeah.
I can
Especially if
tell you-
it's for parts.
Yeah, I can tell you all about brand new ones because I'm used to that, but when you come to something that's that,
Yeah,
on its
me
age and the
neither,
wear and
yeah.
tear, and then you compare hours compared to miles of it sitting on the scene pumping on a fire compared to driving miles are two different things.
Right.
So
And
that kind of weighs
they're
in
in
their
good-
stuff.
We've taken, good care of the fire
Yes, ma'am.
trucks, so if people see them, I think,
Absolutely.
they're in better condition.
Yep.
Giovanna?
This is Giovanna, the County Director. Is it allowed?
You might have to push it again, Joe.
I heard Sharon, but I didn't hear, okay, yeah.
Hello, Giovanna Neal, Accounting Director. I just wanted to let you know, as well as this BidNet.
BidNet and in the Brindley Mountain.
So the BidNet actually does charge a 5% commission. So I just wanted to let you know that even the other thing that we go through, they still charge a fee for their service. So just to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and I did forget that about it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Trustee Swanson?
So my other question is, the trucks have our information on it, so as part of the agreement that they remove the, like it says Ipsy Township, I don't think we want to sell our property and have it out there and not know what's going to be done with it. So is there an agreement that they remove that logo off of it?
Yeah, so I will make sure that logo is gone before it leaves the township.
Okay.
No matter who takes it.
And are
then-
these like Rosie and that stuff on the back? Is that our
This one, no, no, no.
intellectual property of some sort, or?
So the two that were, the American and Francis that were disposing of, do not have anything of like the Rosian nature on them. It just strictly says front door, Charter Township of Ypsilanti. And I think the other one says, may say on the back corner panel. But those are easy enough to take off. As silly as it sounds, a nice hot hair dryer, and they just kind of crumble right off. So, but I will make sure that those absolutely are gone before it'll look like a red and white truck with nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it will be gone.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, folks.
Number 4 is a request to approve change order number 1 with Northgate Construction for the Green Oaks Golf Course bathroom renovations in the amount of $17,750, which is budgeted.
So move.
Motion Rowe. Support Swanson. Mr. Hine?
Good evening, John Hines, Municipal Service Director. Bringing forth change order number 1 with Northgate Construction for Green Oaks Golf Course bathroom remodel as part of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So this project is one of the ones that I believe Attorney Winters briefly mentioned that we've been discussing quite a bit in between Northgate and Stantec. We are ready between ourselves and Northgate to move forward. We are waiting on updated drawings from Stantec after a couple walkthroughs and some additional meetings. Part of the walkthroughs is why I'm bringing this change order before you all this evening. When we did the walkthrough with Northgate and Stantec, looking at the existing lightning rods in both bathroom facilities, the lightning rod currently goes in between both bathrooms, through the building and grounds at the bottom of the facility. Northgate proposed and Stantec did agree that it would be much more beneficial to have the lightning rod be ground in the ground outside the bathrooms. That way, if a lightning strike were to occur, it would exit the building and not go to the base of the facility. The second change is re-concrete in front of both sets of exterior bathroom doors past the frost line. This was something that Northgate did not include in their original quote. Now, I know as you're all aware, this was kind of got a little bit different than the standard way due to going out to bid twice to no avail. So it was an oversight on their part. The concrete would be about 100 square yards, including both bathrooms, and go down past the frost line to prevent any heaving in front of the steps, or in front of the doors, excuse me. For added safety and security, mechanical keyless locks would be added to all 4 doors. This would be very beneficial, so golf staff would not have to drive to each bathroom and lock it at the end of the night as well as the start of the day. And on a side note, I do want to add, this is something that we're starting to look into exploring for a lot of our parks, because we open the gates around 5 a.m. in the summertime. The bathrooms, we could wait to open those, and it would be much more beneficial and probably safe for our staff to not have to go physically to each location, especially when it's still dark outside. Then lastly, in the maintenance garage, Northgate would epoxy the floors in the bathrooms. This was not included in the original bid scope, but again, it was something we did the walkthrough where it was discussed with the changes of both bathrooms. It would just be more beneficial for the floors to have the epoxy. That way, where concrete, or where the stanchions and showers getting converted into a sink, that way the concrete that's underneath won't be discolored and maybe a little uneven. This will flatten everything and be, much nicer performing and looking. So attached is the change order, if approved tonight and the drawings come in by Stantec, tomorrow. Ideally, working with the building department, we could look to start renovations on the golf course restrooms as soon as Northgate's schedule opens, and they believe it's a 5-week project for all 3 locations.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is budget amendment number 8. Clerk roll.
Sorry. Can I read yours?
Oh, yeah.
My computer's not working.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry, technical difficulties. All right, I have a motion to amend the 2024 budget, budget amendment number 8, and I would move to increase the general fund budget by $60,198 to $27,026,526 and approve the department line item changes as outlined. I would so move the budget amendment.
Support Eldridge. Questions or comments regarding the budget amendment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 1 on authorization as bid is to request approval to seek sealed bids for playground surface replacement at Ford Heritage Park.
Good evening, John Hines, Municipal Service Director.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Eldridge.
Okay, good evening. Before you were bringing a request to go out to bid for the playground surface replacement at Ford Heritage Park as part of the American Rescue Plan Act funding. So I have Elsie here from Spicer Group to answer any technical questions on what was put together, but this proposal was one of the resolutions passed last year, and this would replace the poured-in-place rubberized surface at Ford Heritage Park. Now, when we originally had conversations about this project last year, I believe the estimate was about $50 per square foot for the played-in surface, and a recent bid they got back was $65. So due to kind of what we're seeing in a market price, this bid was included as the base bid, is replacing what is existing there. As an alternate, it would be also converting the fiber mulch that is on the site to rubberized as well. This would be going out to bid this week, and ideally open beginning of July to be brought back before the July meeting.
Questions or comments? Trustee Swanson?
So I'm wondering, because I know that playground was designed specific, with very specific needs. And I don't remember why. Some was poured in place and some was wood chips. I believe the wood chips are under the swings and stuff, isn't that correct? So, is there a reason why that would be better for swings? I just know that if and maybe it could have been cost, I'm not sure, but because it was designed for the purpose of having it as an accessible playground. That's why the poured in place was so important, even though it was expensive. But then I'm wondering why we would have done wood chips some places, and if there'd be any reason why. I mean, I guess if it's all poured in place, that's usually, people want that.
Yeah, they do.
But if there was a reason why they put wood chips for some reason, I don't know that, whether it was because on swings or for some soft surface. So have we looked into that at all? I don't know the answer to it. I just know I was involved when it was done. I don't recall why, whether it was a cost factor and if they would have preferred to have all poured in place, or if there's some reason why poured in place in those specific places where it isn't, was needed for the purpose of the play there. I'm not sure. So I don't know if any thought's been given to that, or if, I guess we could ask Sandy Andreessen's still around. Maybe she could be asked that question, because I'd hate to see us do something that wasn't aligned with what the values were with the hard.
You're bidding it both
done
ways,
for
right?
that.
Yeah, we're bidding it both ways, and I guess that is one clarification, is the standard bid does have a replacement of the fiber mulch as well. It's just the
Okay.
alternate's adding poured in place everywhere. I can't speak on why the decision was made originally. I just know the fiber mulch, though it's effective because of course we use them in many other parks, but the fact that we have both there, you sweep it off the rubberized and 10 minutes later it's back on there, and it's just caused a lot of issues that way. I don't know if there's a difference in the safety, because I do know that there is rubberized under some of the swings. It's just, I think a lot of in between the pathway areas is a big part, and some of the other swings. So, yeah, I guess I can't speak on the originality of it,
But you can find out if it's required for ADA. It'd probably be a fall zone, I'm guessing, but I'm not sure if that's required to have the mulch.
And again, I'm not opposed to it. I know that such careful planning was done for that specific park for accessibility purposes from someone who is dedicated to this idea of accessibility. I also know the mulch getting on the poured in place is a problem. I just hate for us to change something if we didn't understand what the original purpose and intent.
Well, it has to be ADA compliant too, right? Yeah. So it's a good question. Yes.
We had discussed this a little bit already, but I recently was at a park that had poured in place, and I know that ours is to remove and replace existing, but if it would be possible to, I don't know how, I know you don't want to make the bid very complicated, but I've also seen where they go over the holes that are already in the established surface, and then they just patch up the holes. It's similar to patching up a hole in the road. And this particular park didn't have matching colors, which really I didn't like. But I don't know if that would be another option to see if we could keep the poured in place at a reduced cost if you were only resurfacing the troubled areas. But I don't know. I just wanted to share that, and I know we had kind of talked a little bit about that.
There are sections at the park that have already been patched up, and the issue with that is, I hate to kind of compare it to, when you patch up a road, it's that it's very noticeable where you've done it, and it's more likely to wear a face. And that's kind of the case there. If you look under the swings, the ADA swings, they have been patched there, and then a lot of it's already gone, and you can tell because it's much lighter blue. The other issue with replacing everything, a big reason, is because over the, I think it's 25 years since it was installed, it has shrank on the edges, allowing a lot of weeds, tripping hazards. I mean, I know you go to that park probably more than most in this room, so you see more than anybody, but, that's kind of the other thing. I mean, I don't know if you can add anything to.
The Pazer rating is bad, if you will, right? Thank you.
What about the curbs?
We plan on leaving the curbs in place. We don't have that currently in the bid package.
But, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It could be added.
We are working internally on that. I met with Jeff, my assistant director today, and we do have a plan to do that, that we discussed for him to fix it more long-term.
One more question. So along the lines of what Clerk Rowe said, if, because so often we say we're going to do something and we want to do all, and then we get bids back, and then we're like, well, we have to downsize. So I think she is offering an option that maybe we should at least think about, because often we say we're going to go for all of it, and then we come back and say, we asked for all of it, now we can't do it, and then we end up having to go. So I think it's a good thing to look into, just in case we come back and we can't afford what we're hoping to do, which has happened a lot with us. So I don't know. It's a good thing to at least think about. Maybe we already think the $65 per square foot was something we're going to be able to afford. I don't know exactly that. I just don't. That sometimes is frustrating. So maybe we have to see both of that, so that at least if we come back, we know we have that price too, or not.
I guess we can discuss that after. I know, I don't want to say something that doesn't turn out to be true, but the first option is the conservative option, the option with the 65 kept in mind that should fall well within the budget. Now, you're exactly right. We've been in front of you a few times here with changes, but with replacing the fiber mulch and keeping it fiber mulch and the poured in place surface, it was trying to be very conservative, putting the contingency in there as well as the construction engineering. So hopefully we can come back in July with a solid number. And the hope is that, again, we will look more into fiber versus poured in place for everything, but I'm hoping that we're able to cover that cost as well. But that might be outside the realm, but that is, of course, we'll find out that when they come back in.
So you're saying that having poured in place plus the fiber would be an option that might be less than the other, so we're already covering ourselves with a couple options.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that we discussed.
Not needing a third option.
That's really what we tried to plan. I think trying to learn from the mistakes of some past bids was trying to put things in there as alternate, so then the board can make the decision and not have to come back 6 weeks later to make the decision.
20, I didn't realize it was 25 years. That's a long time. Yeah. To be.
It still looks great, just a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's one of the, people love that park too. All right, so any other questions or comments? We have a motion support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is a request to seek sealed bids for the sanitary water line site work and restroom demolition. What demolition? Okay. For Ford Heritage Park and site work and pavilion installation at Lakeside Park.
So moved.
Motion Rowe?
Support.
Eldridge?
Okay. Good evening, John Hines, Municipal Service Director. So we are bringing forward to seek sealed bids for the sanitary and water line site work at Ford Heritage Park and the restroom demolition, site work, pavilion installation at Lakeside Park as part of the American Rescue Plan Act funding. So this is the second part of the projects for both parks when it comes to bringing forward the prefabricated restrooms, I think about 6 weeks ago at this point. For Ford Heritage, there's no existing restrooms right now. We're covering all facility needs with porta-johns. So to bring the prefabricated structure, we need to bring in the sanitary and water line from the west neighborhood, as well as put the base for the structure and then sidewalk work to connect the structure to the existing sidewalk. For Lakeside Park, we had to take down the shelter due to pier deficiencies out of 3 of the 6. So currently the shelter is down, but the bathroom still remains. So the first part of the work for Lakeside Park would be to remove the current bathroom. We would have to redo the site for the structure to sit on where the bathrooms are currently, reuse the existing sewer lines. I mean, the base of everything is going to stay, but just how it fits is going to be a different size. Then put the shelter connecting the restroom. It'll be off a little bit, so I'll have to rework the concrete to make sure that it fits on there. Again, not completely redo the concrete that's there, but enough to fit the shelter. And let's see. So basically remove what's there, reshape for the new that'll be installed. And of course, the purchase of a shelter would be included in the bid because we need to replace what was taken down.
Questions or comments? Trustee Swanson?
Which is off topic from this, but when you mentioned the lightning rods in the bathrooms at Green Oaks, when we did the presentation about these bathrooms, do they have lightning rods in them, or is that just something that's special for the bathrooms at Green Oaks?
They're special to the bathrooms at Green Oaks because these shelters are designed to be safe havens from storms.
Oh, okay.
You know, each of those shelters, I mean, and I know it kind of explains it, but there's an apron around the outside shelter bathrooms because when you're on that side of the course, when the siren goes off,
Okay.
golfers are suggested to go under there for safety.
Okay. So I'm wondering, what do we offer for people who are out in the park during,
They
yes,
can
ma'am,
get in
that's a
their cars.
question. Pardon?
They could get in their cars.
Oh, okay. And the golfers can't do that, okay. I just thought that was odd because we didn't hear talk about that before. Okay.
Other questions or comments? So the actual is to seek sealed bids for sanitary and water line site work at Ford Heritage Park and restroom demolition site work and pavilion installation at Lakeside Park.
Yes.
And then
And
just correct
again, this all hinges on getting a contractor to award at the July meeting, but in contacts with CXT is just an update with the restroom facilities. We are potentially targeting, again, everything following the line, but delivery of the facilities in September. So that's before we thought when we went to the board at the initial. So at least for the soccer side of things, it would be very nice to have those at Fort Heritage.
I know, John, that I mentioned the Lakeside Park because we took the pavilion down, and a lot of people go to that park. And we talked about maybe getting some sort of umbrella or something, or
We could look at
canopy.
a temporary structure. So,
Something, yeah,
Yeah.
because they have a lot of family gatherings there, and it's just, that's a very busy park as well, but
Yeah.
the shelter was removed, the roof, and we were going to try to get that. It doesn't look like it's going to happen until later, so if we
We
could
can
get
now, at
something.
least for the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
These are two separate projects that
Yes.
people could work on, right? We're not saying they have to go together.
These are in the same bid package.
They are. Because I could see somebody being skilled at the sanitary work, but maybe not wanting to do the demolition. So if we combine it that way, are we limiting ourselves to who might bid on it?
The site work for both the bathrooms is the same, though, so, and the utility hookups will be the same. It is likely that they will hire a subcontractor for either one, depending on what their specialty is, but the other regardless, I think you would have to hire a sub depending on what you were doing, because they would still need some utility work for Lakeside, so not a ton, but, and the site work is the same at both, or similar for the bathrooms, and the pavilion site work is also similar to what would be needed for the bathroom.
But the bid is just for the sanitary and water line.
No. No, it includes, it's for the sanitary, the water line, all the site work that's required for the base of the bathroom facilities, sidewalks.
Okay. So it'll put, okay.
And the shelter.
And the shelter, yes.
Lakeside has water and sewer already, I think
Yes.
is the point that Debbie might have been making.
I just thought, I'm not trying to be unkind, but we have a lot of times we go make decisions about how we're going to bid things, and then we have difficulty getting bids that we're happy with or that we can feel comfortable with. So sometimes it could be the way we're putting them out there. Like, I'm sure there are people who do sanitary water lines. They can get in, they can do it quick, they can offer a pretty competitive price because it's the work they do all the time. And then we probably have people who demolition work is very similar, but maybe not necessarily. Sometimes people put lines in and they just put lines in and that's what they do. So I'm just starting to, I mean, I'm not an expert in this, you guys are the ones who do it, but when things come back, we like to know, great, we did it in a way that we can feel comfortable with it, and often that doesn't happen, not just with the things you're bringing with us, it's been a lot of different things. So I'm just thinking more about how do we put things out there so that we can get competitive bids, maybe get a few bids, so that we can choose through them, and then we can feel more comfortable with it, because a lot of times we're not super comfortable with the bids that they come back in. So I don't know a lot about what's here. It seems to me like there's two kind of separate things here, and if they have to subcontract, that kind of proves the point I'm trying to make, that if they've got to hire somebody else to do the work for them, it may cost us more because they're subcontracting versus a contractor just coming in and do it. It's not going to hold it up. I'm just starting to think about how maybe the bidding process could get us better outcomes.
Very, very, very fair question. The only thing I think as part of the bid that's really, I would say, different is probably the shelter aspect of things, but they'll need to do concrete for both sites, and that's part of it. They're probably going to find a prefabricated shelter instead of constructing it from the ground up. But how it connects to the concrete is still going to be kind of in kind, for the concrete work's going to be needed for both restrooms. And when it comes to the demo, you know, these contractors do need to subcontract that out a fair amount of the times, but you can't demo it unless you're ready to do the adjacent sanitary line work too, because we can't take down the bathrooms and just have the pipes open, you know, to the elements. So it is hitting a lot of parts, but I will kind of compare it to what we went out to bid for with Spicer when it comes to what we're doing with A.R. Brower. You know, 2 separate sites for the MDNR grants, even though it's similar, 2 different sites for the ARPA projects, even though they're similar. It's a big coordination, and A.R. Brower, I know, is subbing out many parts of the work, but they, as the company, are overseeing that umbrella and working with Spicer to work with us. And, you know, that's worked out very well. So the companies that are big enough to handle this type of job should have a pretty well-connected network of subs that they work with on these jobs to keep everything straightforward with the schedule.
Will this be a 2024 or 2025, depends on the bid, or?
It's
No.
2024. It has to be 2024 because the site work for both has to connect to the bathrooms that we're trying to get in September. So it really would ideally be hitting the ground running if we are to get competitive bids and get it approved at the July meeting, hopefully contract, you know, by August, and then bathrooms delivered by mid-September.
It's kind of a late bid, that's all I'm saying, for this year. Usually you like September for the next year, but maybe. A.R. Brower has worked out very well in the parks. They've done a phenomenal job in Ford Lake and the community center. I stopped by there at the tennis courts and stuff like that.
Yep, and of course, we're going to follow the process. I'm sure they're going to bid on it, but, you know, I will say that both of those projects that we did bid out with Spicer earlier this year, now I don't have it in front of me, but if I remember correctly, the shelters, I believe, had 6 bidders and the tennis courts had 4 bidders. So we did get a good response back compared to, you know, I think with the golf course, which did not have as competitive as bids, excuse me.
All right, we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under other business, we've added the request to authorize and approve change order number 2 for Ford Lake
Thank you.
Park shelter improvements as part of the American Rescue Plan Act.
So move.
And the,
Sorry.
it's okay. Motion Rowe,
Support Peterson.
support Peterson.
Good evening, John Hines, Municipal Service Director. I'm bringing the request to approve change order number 2 for Ford Lake Park shelter improvements as part of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So this is being brought before you today from A.R. Brower and vetted by Spicer Group for additional concrete work needed around the columns at Ford Lake Park shelter number 2. To To echo Supervisor Stumbo's comments in the last agenda items, A.R. Brower has done a very good job in this project so far when it comes to the shelter renovation. Shelter 1 is complete, Shelter 3 is complete, Shelter 4 is complete, and West Willow is complete at this time. But Shelter 2 unfortunately provided more issues than originally noticed when doing the original engineering work. And it's something that could not have been found out until you started digging. And what A.R. Brower found when they busted the concrete at Shelter 2 was, unfortunately, the columns did not tie into the foundation. And they went out there and they showed me and they showed Phil Westmoreland from Spicer. You know, they put a crowbar in between the concrete and the column, and in 20 out of 22, it moved horizontally. Now, obviously, the shelter stood for many years, so it was not in an immediate danger, but it's something that they do not feel comfortable putting back together without creating a solution. So we met on this, and it was Phil who came up with this idea that A.R. Brower as well supported and think it'll be the solution, and that is around all 22 piers, they're going to dig, I think it's 42 inches around each column. They're going to pour concrete around each column monolithically with the concrete slab and the rat wall. So, you know, it should not move for a very long time. With the proposal, $30,000 would be taken out of the contingency, and this would only be an increase on what was approved to this point of $4,111 that is budgeted in the account for this project. When they finish Shelter 2, then the Ford Lake Park shelter fixes will be closed out. So this repair and then removing of the grills and finishing up the roof work is what is waiting. If approved tonight, the project would probably be completed about a month from now.
John, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. A month from now, that in July, so be prepared for people who want to come out in those summer months, it'll be completed.
Yes, unfortunately.
In the middle of July.
Yes, and unfortunately, I know, you know, they really tried to get everything done by Memorial Day. That was the goal for everything. But again, once they dug the slab up at Shelter 2, it created a pause that they had to get pricing on, first to get a solution, then find pricing, and then Spicer had to approve it because it does change the scope of the project. And then, of course, come here tonight. You know, again, unfortunately, it's not open for the start of the event series, jazz event series, and for park rentals, and we've had to move some renters to Shelters 1 and 3 to this point, or different parks. But again, want to do it the correct way so it lasts, you know, many, many decades from now. You know, the nice thing is there was no vertical movement. So again, it's not in any kind of chance to fall. But again, if you have 20 out of 22 that are moving vertically, there's only a matter of time before the ground shifts enough where it just causes a very big structural issue.
So is that closed down now completely?
Yes.
For safety? Okay.
Is this the shelter closest to the basketball court?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is I would say marquee, but Shelters 1 and 3 are big and
Nice.
fantastic and look great right now, but it is the most commonly rented, and I think it is just due to the location.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. At this time, we have public comments, and people would give their name and if they're township resident or not, and you have 3 minutes. Any public comment?
Hello, Sharon Lee. I live in West Willow in Ipsy Township. I have 3 things I want to talk about. Number 1 is the trees on Tyler Road. Don't get me wrong, they're beautiful, okay? But when you're coming off the side streets like Nash or DeSoto or Laurie, and you're trying to turn onto Tyler Road, the trees are blocking your view. So people on Tyler Road, you know, they're speeding, and you have to inch off of your side street, and it's very dangerous. You know, you have to hurry up and turn, and you may get hit. So if we can get them trimmed down a little, I don't know if you're able to do that or not. That would be great. Because like I said, the trees are beautiful, but they're very dangerous.
I'm sorry, did you say Nash and DeSoto? Are they bushes or are they trees?
They're the trees on lining Tyler Road on both sides, and they're beautiful, but they're grown so much that they're hanging and they're blocking your view, so you can't see the cars coming, off a wire road or coming down. I think I did. What I do?
We'll report that to the road commission. Are you gonna say that?
I got a big house, so maybe you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you now. I can hear you. I did not say you had a big mouth.
If you're going, coming off of Wire Road or coming down Tyler, you just have to hurry up and turn because, people are speeding, which you're not supposed to be, but they do it. And you have to hurry up and turn onto Tyler Road because you really can't see and you're entering your way onto Tyler Road, so.
Gotcha. Okay, we'll report that to the road commission.
Okay, and then number 2, the fence on Service Drive in US 12. They got that pretty green cover on it. And apparently, I guess the road commission was supposed to fix it where it came loose, but they're fixing it. It's horrible. It's got open gaps in it, and it looks really bad. If they can really fix it, the neighborhood would really appreciate it because it's ugly, very ugly. And, we're not a ghetto over there. We're a neighborhood, and we want it done right. So, that one, that's number 2. Number 3, the garbage cans, lids. The garbage trucks are so rough with the garbage cans, and I know we got the garbage cans to control the rat situation, but they have just tore the garbage lids to pieces. I tape mine up with electrical tape, so it's pretty decent. But my neighbors, theirs is hanging on by a plastic thread, okay? And I know I saw a rat go across my backyard to his backyard. So I'm not saying it's getting into his garbage, but I don't know. So I don't know if we're supposed to replace the garbage cans or how. I didn't know the plan for that. But I know a couple of neighbors down on DeSoto, their garbage lids, can lids are terrible. And it's because of the garbage trucks are so rough with them. So I don't know what to do.
Residential service, did John leave? Okay, yeah. John can report that to residential services, and they'll come out and repair some of them or get them replaced.
Okay.
But I agree, we have heard concerns about how hard they hit them when they put them down.
Yes. And then number 4, the last one.
Oh, you had 3, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The yard waste.
I'm kidding.
We're supposed to get our yard waste picked up on Fridays with our garbage, but they haven't been doing it every time it's supposed to get picked up. And they'll come around Mondays and pick them up, which is, I don't know. I know I'm being picky, but I know the township is paying for them to pick it up on Fridays. And it sits all weekend there. But so I need you to get on them.
Yeah, and Ms. Lee, if you would call us, did you call RSD and let us know about that? I know I was at the Neighborhood Watch meeting and it was brought up. The contract says they have 24 hours to pick it up, and they went out on Saturday, I think, is what they said at the meeting, to pick up the yard waste.
Well, I know a couple of times DeSoto sat on there until Monday on our street. So it's been a couple of times they did that.
Please let us know every time that happens, and then we'll reach out to Waste Management immediately, because it's not only your neighborhood, that's happened in other neighborhoods as well. So we'll let them know that a resident came to the meeting, and it's of great concern. But if you would just email us when that happens, then we forward it to them. Even if it's on my handheld, I'll check it on the weekend, and I'll send it to the foreman, or John will too, because we get emails from residents on the weekend as well.
Oh, okay.
So please, yeah, as soon as you know, it'd be nice if they would let us know that they're not going to complete the route. Then we can post it on our website and let residents know. We've met with them several times on this, so we'll ask again.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
We appreciate it. And thank you, Sharon. Any other public comments? Hearing none, are there board member updates? I have just, the Ridge Road sidewalk is very close to completion. And with the lights are in, of course, they were put in last year, but the sidewalk looks great. And the fence is also going to be repaired. We went, the community center, the senior wing, they're putting in the sanitary sewer this week. So they'll connect all the new bathrooms and everything to, and the senior wing will be open 2 weeks, John? Just yes or no?
Yes, they're doing the site work this week.
So it should be open. We go there and visit often to make sure they keep going on it. That our seniors, we're so sorry that it's taken so long for this project to happen. And then they'll continue with the second part of it, which is in the 100 wing, is that 200 wing? Okay, I get the wings confused. But hopefully that'll be done the next 2 weeks. We also attended the signs on the parks. I don't know if the board has seen, I know residents has emailed us, and they love the new signs on the parks. And John, they're wonderful. Residents absolutely love them. So they're not all installed yet, is that correct?
Correct. The rest of them are being installed this week for what's been approved.
So the rest of the signs are coming, but I know they're wonderful. We also attended the Ecorse Road Hawthorne Neighborhood Watch Meeting, the West Willow Neighborhood Watch Meeting, and the Jazz Festival is starting July 5th, right? That's the day after the 4th. And we get CTAP grants from Destination Ann Arbor every year. We used to rent golf carts. So now we're looking at purchasing used ones that actually we can keep for other township events, since now we have a special events coordinator, and we'll use the grant dollars in order to purchase some, and they're battery operated, so that's good too. That's all I have. Any other update? Pardon me? Driving those carts, right. I'm the cart lady, yeah. Yes.
Just briefly, because you're going to get questioned, it's that time of the year again for summer taxes. So we have been dealing with the various municipalities that have to submit an L-4029 form to us, much like we approve every year. They've been problematic, to say the least, not just from one entity, but multiples. We have to submit those forms to a printer. We sent them out yesterday. We're still waiting for signed forms from all those municipalities, just as a verification that their numbers are correct. So what they're going to be advised moving forward is they're going to have those forms to us by the 1st of June so that we can do our work and make sure that their numbers are correct. And this is kind of why Friday, when we thought we had everything corrected with all those forms, Van Buren Schools called and had to make a correction. They actually didn't find it. It was found by the County Equalization Office. So we send all of our numbers over to them to make sure that they're correct. And the numbers that were sent to us added up. However, they had the wrong numbers on the form. So we had to send that back. Lincoln doesn't have theirs to us yet. And probably the one that we get the most questions about in the treasurer's office is related to Ypsilanti Community Schools. They held a meeting, and maybe the board member can help me, on June 3rd. They approved their L4029 as it was listed in the packet, which we found online. The millage numbers that we received showed 4.65 for both residents in the current Ypsilanti, or what I call Ypsilanti School District, and the old Willow Run District. It showed an even parallel on those numbers, which is what I think everybody throughout the township has been hoping for. We were waiting for the signed copy to come the following day. We didn't receive it. We finally called on Thursday. The deputy treasurer spoke to one of the administrators and said, hey, we do need your signed copy now that you've passed it. And boy, it's really nice that you were able to even out those millage numbers. The response was not one that we hoped for. It was simply, can you repeat what you just said? Because I think I made a major mistake. I'll call you back. We didn't hear back that day. I was finally able to get a hold of that administrator the next day, as was the deputy treasurer. They had to recalculate some numbers. They didn't have the right numbers on the L4029 that had been approved by the school board and sent to us. When we finally received the updated version on Sunday, June the 9th, we saw it on Monday, the 10th, but we received it on the 9th. The numbers had changed. And the millage for the Ypsilanti School District, or the old Ypsilanti School District, had been lowered to 4.10, which was good for those residents. The millage number for those residents in the old Willow Run School District had gone up to 6.75. So while we have no say in those numbers, to say the least, it was disappointing. My bigger concern at that point was that the overall operating mills had exceeded 18.0, which is a state law that you cannot exceed it. It was actually showing 18.4 mills. So we advised the school administrator. We also had to bring in the county equalization office to make sure that we were understanding it and doing it correctly. And after roughly 2.5 days, we were able to get the mills back to 18.0 overall for operating. However, it did not change the mills that would be assessed to both of the past school districts. They'll remain at 4.10 and 6.75. So I just wanted to update you with that because you're going to get questions when the tax statements go out on July 1st. The reason we have to have those signed copies sooner than we're getting them from all of these entities is by state law, we have to have those tax statements in the mail and out on July 1st, which requires us to get them to the printer roughly 12, 13 days in advance. So you're going to receive questions as to why those millages are different, because I think everybody with the recent allocation from the state thought those were going to be paid off at the same rates. And that's a decision that's not ours to make. That's for another entity to make, but you're going to receive the questions on those. So I just want to make sure that you knew that, and we're updated. We started updating some of the neighborhood watch meetings as we go because residents are asking at those meetings. And so it's certainly not to cast any blame or aspersions, but I want to make sure that we're transparent in why we're sending out what we're sending out. It's because that's what was sent to us, and by law, we have to accept that.
Thank you, Treasurer Eldridge. Any other updates?
Was this part of the, what I want to say, the 13 mills that it was cast upon Ypsi Community Schools, or no, Willow Run, when there was a merger or something, or?
Yes. Yeah.
So really, the 6 mills is part of the total amount that they're paying off.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but I think the Willow Run District residents, the former Willow Run District residents were paying in the area of 13 mills.
Yes,
It's down to 6.75,
okay.
but they also lowered the other school district as well. So I mean, my hope as a resident was that they were going to be evened out.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that was what many people were hoping and expecting, but they weren't.
okay. Yeah, because I was just wondering. Yeah,
The original approval of the Willow Run bond was 7 mills.
okay.
And then, because of the economy, I'm guess, they had to increase the millage in order to pay the bond debt.
Okay.
But I was hoping it would eliminate all the debt so the taxpayers would be benefited, because we are getting an increase in AAATA from 0.7 to 2.35. So that's a pretty,
That'll be in July too, right?
yeah.
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 So, but, right,
And that's why I mentioned this, because residents were hoping for relief on those school mills to in some way help make up for the increase that they're going to see from the AAATA.
Yeah.
They were hoping, well, they're not going to see quite what they were expecting or hoping for.
but we don't have control over it. I don't understand if it was approved at a board meeting for the L4029, only the board can change that. And I don't know if they had another meeting or not, but only the board can change the L4029, like the administrator, which is the accountant, is that correct?
It's their chief financial officer, and that was my question to them, is when we received the changed version, the question that was asked, when will you be holding the next school board meeting so you can go back in and present these changed numbers to your board so that it can be re-voted upon? Maybe the rules there are different, but I certainly don't have the latitude to change our L4029 after the board's vote. I don't have that unilateral power to do it. If it was changed, it would have to come back to this, this body. And so that was my question there. The only response given was what we approved on June 3rd is what was in the packet. When we look at the packet, it's the different numbers. That's where the disparity is. And then the audio from the YouTube is what we get all that information from. So.
But the bills have to go out.
But the bills have to go out. We don't have a choice. We don't set those rules. As long as they are at 18 mils and under, whatever they set their numbers at, we have to accept and then ship out, and they have to be out by July 1st.
Trustee Swanson?
So I guess it makes me wonder, like, if you have a deadline, what happens if somebody doesn't get you the right numbers? Are they not able to then levy what they're supposed to levy? Because
Correct. In
this seems
this case,
a little.
if this would not have been resolved by the time we had to send the bills out, the school district would still eventually receive their monies. They would have to wait, though, until the winter, which means those residents would still have been hit with a higher millage even then. They wouldn't have got the relief.
Is there a statutory obligation on there? I mean, because we're all municipalities. Is there a statutory obligation? I mean, you have a statutory obligation to do something. Is there a statutory obligation to have that turned in?
To have it turned in, yes, signed. Historically, I think when we talk to other treasurers and county, they have, has always been practice that once it was approved by their boards or even in advance, if there was no reason to expect a change, they always accepted them without signature. We're going to try and change that. Well, I don't know if we can get to, we're going to make it a practice here, though, that Ypsi Township wants a signed L4029 from those entities the first week in June of each year, so that we then have time to review it in partnership with the equalization office at the county to ensure that all the numbers are correct before we send it to a printer and then ship it out to residents. For everybody. Right. one entity's facing that now. They had to, Van Buren's had to change, go back late and change what they're going to send out, and so it's going to cost them some money. So.
For your due diligence and checking things and working to try and get this taken care of on behalf of the taxpayers and the residents, and actually the entities that need the funding.
Right.
So thank you.
Any other board updates? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move, Peterson.
Support.
Wilson Peterson, support Rowe. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 7:26.
We're freezing back there, like, it's crazy.